So this is a carbon tax with Save America, my IMP. So this year's stimulus is focused on resilience and how it can be helpful against modern day global issues. And I believe that one of the biggest modern day global issues is global warming. So I am presenting on the most resilient solution to that problem, which is a carbon tax. And according to EESI.org, 5% of the world lives in America, but we still manage to produce 28% of the world's carbon emissions. And also, the State of Air 2022 report found that over 40% of Americans live in unhealthy levels of particle pollution or ozone. And these two facts prove why global warming is a radical problem that calls for a radical solution. So what exactly is a carbon tax? Well, it is a tax levied by the government on people or organizations, and they put a price on every ton of carbon that they produce. This will encourage consumers, businesses, and governments to deviate from relying so much on carbon and switch to cleaner methods of energy. This method of environmentalism has been in effect since 1990, when Finland decided to be the first major nation to take a step towards environmental stability by initiating a nationwide carbon tax. And since then, over 36 countries have followed Finland, such as Canada, China, Japan, Korea, Mexico, France, Germany, Italy, Spain, and the UK. Even though the US is a major contributor to the world's carbon emissions, notice how they are not on that list, and that is the problem. So Bo Qianglin and Zuhei Li are two researchers from China, and China is one of the countries that does have a national carbon tax. So they witnessed the effect of a carbon tax firsthand. And in their article on the carbon tax, they say in order to reduce carbon emissions, numerous policies have been in place, including emission trading standards, carbon tax, energy tax, and emission standards. Among these methods, they say that the carbon tax is the most cost-effective instrument in achieving a given abatement target and is highly recommended by most economists and international organizations. They are saying that carbon tax is not only the most realistic solution to climate change, but also the most effective. Their article also explains that it can promote the development of new energy sources and subsidizing the environmental protection projects or the technological development of energy saving and emission reduction. The reason a carbon tax is so effective is that not only does it discourage a highly polluting material, but it also encourages the use of other renewable materials. And this effect is already happening all over the world. And for example, as you can see in the graph, when the UK introduced their carbon tax in 2013, you can see how the percent of electricity generated only goes up, while the CO2 emissions only go down. So Mr. Lin and Mr. Lee's article continues by talking about how carbon tax encourages energy efficiency. It can promote the substitution of fuel products and therefore changes the structure of energy consumption and production. It encourages energy saving as well as the investment in energy efficiency improvement. When people defer from carbon, not only will they substitute their fuel methods for more renewable energy, but they will also invest in other methods of renewable energy and those industries, which will make them way more prevalent. And as you can see in these two graphs, you can see how in their wind, gas, and other renewable electricity production only increases after 2013, while their coal production only goes down. This further proves the point that carbon tax will encourage more energy efficient methods of living. So an auxiliary effect of carbon tax is not only will it cause people to deviate from the carbon industry, which will cause the industry to decline, but it will also cause other environmentally friendly economies to grow. The Congressional Budget Office for the U.S. Congress published a paper that says by raising the prices of carbon and fossil fuels, a carbon tax would tend to increase the cost of producing goods and services that involve relatively large amounts of CO2 emissions. Those cost increases would provide an incentive for companies to manufacture their products to emit less carbon. And not only will it cause companies to monitor their carbon use, but it will also influence the average household. That same paper by the CBO says that higher production costs will lead to higher prices in emission incentive goods and services, which would encourage households to deviate from these products and goods and services and use less of them. The integration of a carbon tax will spark a nationwide movement of innovation and will ultimately save the planet. So the main counter for a carbon tax is that it will jack up the price of everything and affect low-income families very hardly. But according to Jonathan Marshall, the editor of the San Francisco Chronicle, new technology offers the welcome promise of weaning the world off of dirty fuels much faster and at a lower cost than many scenarios may assume. If a carbon tax lures people away from the carbon industry, this will incentivize companies to invest in cleaner production processes and technologies. This will also stimulate the development of new and innovative products that will have a lower carbon footprint and are more environmentally friendly, which will in turn create new markets for these products and will encourage consumers to make more sustainable choices. In conclusion, Mr. Lin and Mr. Lee's article is summed up well by saying by inducing the development of new technology as well as favoring currently available low carbon options, carbon tax provides two paths to climate mitigation. And these two paths are both reducing both emissions and the cost of cleaner energy. And I believe this to be true, and although some may argue against the introduction of a carbon tax, I think that it would be in everyone's best interest if the biggest nation in the world does join the 36 other nations in establishing this carbon tax.